Are you a solopreneur, a team of 5 ready to scale, or a remote team in SLC looking for a new space? Look no further. The Square has everything you need. Fast Wi-Fi, meeting rooms, great coffee, daily breakfast and snack, and a vibrant community to keep you inspired. From dedicated desks to private offices and enterprise suites, there's a space for you. No matter where you are in the journey, the Square has a spot to help you succeed. Check out the Square's co-working and flexible office space today and take your work to the next level. Let's be honest, we're all juggling a lot these days. Between work, family, and everything else, the last thing you need is to spend hours dealing with car-related tasks. That's where Fleetly comes in. Fleetly is your personal car concierge service designed to give you your time back. Need an oil change, car service, ride to the airport, Fleetly takes care of it. Want your vehicle detailed or even sold? Fleetly's got you covered. No more waiting in lines, no more wasted weekends at the shop, just more time to do what really matters, whether it's growing your career, enjoying moments with your family, or just kicking back and relaxing. Right now, Small Lake City listeners can get 10% off with code SLCPOD at checkout. Visit Fleetly.com and let them handle the hassle so you don't have to. Again, use SLCPOD at checkout for 10% off.
I am very particular about baked goods. I was always disappointed when I ate a cinnamon roll because I just thought, I think I can maybe do it better. And I'm like, well, I've always wanted to own a bakery. Like, we could sell it. So here we are, a couple years later, still slinging dough. We just always baked growing up. Sundays were family days, and that's just what we did. During the holidays this past season, we were making about 1,600 rolls a day. I had a lot of tears, but I've also had a lot of good cinnamon rolls, so it balances out.
What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Small Lake City Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Nilsson, and this week's guest is none other than Amy Lund, aka the Dough Lady. Now, if you're not familiar, Amy started the Dough Lady a few years ago, and it has grown to meteoric popularity with her cinnamon rolls, dinner rolls, and all of the other baked goods that she has started to roll out. It started off in her family's kitchen, growing up on Sunday afternoons, trying to make a good snack, and has now grown into her first brick and mortar location that sells out almost every day, and everybody, myself included, loves them. They are amazing. So we sit down and hear more of her story and a little bit more of the insights, but this is one you're all going to love. She is a treat. I loved sitting down talking with her. So without any further ado, enjoy this week's episode with the Dough Lady, Amy Lund herself. Enjoy. I know my vices, and sugar is one of them.
Everyone's vice is sugar in Utah.
It's cool because I love, like, I always joke with people like, oh, my biggest vice is sugar because I'm a recovering Mormon.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Like, it'll always be like, even in November, I did no sugar and no alcohol. Alcohol's fine. Like, I'm not a big drinker, socially, whatever, but the sugar was so hard. Like, I'm a gas station kid. I will drive home and it'll be like, oh, good day, 7-Eleven could use some nerd clusters.
For sure.
Bad day, could go for a donut.
It cures all.
Yes.
Like, if you're having a great day or a bad day, sugar is there for you. But everyone loves sugar in Utah. I mean, that's Utah's vice for sure.
Like, you know that cheesy saying that people have where it's like, here's the jar, and first you have to put in the big rocks, and those are the important things, and then the small rocks and the sand and this. My thing is like, and then the rest is sugar, because that's what makes it all worth it.
Top it, and then it makes it good.
Yeah, then you're somehow not depressed anymore. But
yeah, completely. Cures you for a few days, and you're fine.
But yeah, I'm excited because, and kind of like we talked about when I was setting up, is I love baked goods. I love pastries. When I lived, before I moved into Marmalade District, I was in Yale-Crest living with my friend, and I lived half a mile away from Thule. And it would just be my nice little, throw in my AirPods, audiobook, podcast, walk down there, I wouldn't get a cinnamon roll, which I'll get to, but I'd always get one of their sticky buns or, olive oil cake, whatever it was. And I was a happy boy. A little treat. We all deserve it.
We all deserve a little treat.
And that was always such a nice way to start anything. And then now I don't have that same thing, so I feel a little off. But I remember because I kind of went through this journey at the beginning of the podcast where I just followed people that I was like, oh, they're doing something. And little by little, I would see more of it. And I remember following you because I'm like, hey, I love cinnamon rolls and sugar in general. You're like, actually, I
hope you do.
But then it wasn't until I think it was when you did the reel with Kendall walking around the farmer's market that I was like, oh, not only is she like making a great product that everybody loves, but she like knows the community and is part of it. Cause I always hate, hate might be the wrong word. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. I'll let people decide. But like, I hate when people get into something and just are purely there for like the money part of things, but ignore the community side of things.
Right.
Which has paid its dividends, because every time you post something on the story of, hey, we're open, the next thing is, and we're sold out, come back in a few days.
Yeah, it was a little, I mean, Christmas was a little bit wild. That's when we sell out. We were at max production. But yeah, I mean, it's been fun to get to know everyone in the community too. Like, I just think that there's room for everyone, and there's so many good treats around. And also Utah has this amazing like underground baking community.
Yes.
Where like so many people during the pandemic, probably specifically, started online because they were like, what else do I do? And like, I like to bake, so I'm going to sell baked goods. And now it's just like this whole community, and it's been so fun. And I am obsessed with so many other bakers too. And it's because I met him through this.
Yeah.
It's been amazing.
And like, to that exact point, like I've been on a big food and like beverage kick recently on the podcast, which has been fun.
Yeah.
Because I find myself like, CC my ADHD of like, oh, here's a rabbit hole, like let's dive in.
Same.
And one thing I love is this common thing that people jumped in during the pandemic.
Yeah,
and it was this huge boon for a lot of these, I mean, bakers and creators at their home, but even more specifically with baked goods. I mean, you have Ying Nance, who did Chubby Baker, that started during the pandemic. You have Peter Suval, who did Bedlam Baking.
Totally.
You have Lady Flour. You have Pie Fly. There's all, like, the list could go on and on and on. And to your point, there's room for everything.
Yeah, there is. And everyone does something differently. Like, it's not all the same. And I don't know. That's when I started. It was during the pandemic, because I started a new job during COVID, and I was at home, and I was suffering at a desk. I was undiagnosed ADHD, and I was just like, is this forever? Like, is this what I have to do? And anyway, I just started to stress bake, because it's just what I always come back to. And my husband was like, we got to get it out of the house. And I'm like, well, I've always wanted to own a bakery. Like, we could sell it. So here we are a couple years later, still slinging dough and cinnamon rolls.
And I mean, it's grown from, your kitchen, the pandemic, to the farmer's market, to now, having your own brick and mortar store in Mill Creek. And again, like, people love this. Like, even the post that you had most recently on LinkedIn, like, that I commented on, but it was nice to even see, someone I've had on the podcast too, like Blake Motorzitsky, being like, these are the best. Like, it's Blake's so great. Unanimous. I always love people who are like, like, we can fight for second place if we want to.
Sure.
But
no, I am very particular about baked goods. And I was always disappointed when I ate a cinnamon roll, because I just thought, it doesn't taste as well as I want it to, or it's dry, or it just like the icing isn't quite right. Like, I'm a cream cheese frosting till I die type of gal. And anyway, I just thought, I think I can maybe do it better. Yeah. And, it just kind of spiraled, and we just started testing different flavors, and I just am particular. And I don't know, here we are.
But to that point, like, I always hate, like, I call them sideliners, or if you're familiar with the term, like NPCs, it's a video game term called non-playable character, meaning they are there to make the story go on. They're not part of things. They're not participating. Because there's a lot of people, and I've run into them, and you've probably run into them too, where it's like, well, I could do that too. Yeah. And it's like, well, you didn't, and you won't. So, like, if you're going to be critical, then, like, either do it or don't. Yeah. And so to that point, to really be like, hey, I think I could do better, and be like, actually, buckle up, I'm going to.
Well, it just kind of spiraled. Like, I didn't start out with this huge business plan either. Like, I started it because I genuinely like to bake, and my husband is really great at like back end strategy, like finance type of things. And so I got into it because I like to bake. He's great at stuff that I'm not good at. And so I don't know, I just kept saying yes to things. Like, I didn't intend for this to become as big as it is. And I don't know, I just didn't quit working for a while, and I just kept showing up, and I just kept baking, and we just kept saying yes to the next opportunity. And that's just kind of how it happened, I guess.
No matter how big or daunting and scary it was, like, I imagine, like, first catering order, you're like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I guess I will.
My first catering order was huge, and I was like, it was 500 cinnamon rolls.
You're like, my KitchenAid is not going to handle this.
I thought, can I even do this? And you just figure out a way, and I don't know, now 500 rolls is nothing if we get a catering order. I'm like, oh, no problem, we can do that. But you have to start somewhere, and it was, it started very small. And I don't know, there's just always room to grow with it.
Everybody starts at zero.
Everyone starts at zero. And I mean, I don't know. I always just keep saying, like, I really didn't intend to do this. It just happened. And I think I have a really good product. So maybe that's why people keep coming back, but you just got to say yes.
Yeah. And but that's like the fun part of it is because people a lot of the time, especially in today's culture, think I'm going to start something, it's going to go viral right away, and I'm going to get exactly where I want to go.
It's a slow burn.
Slow burn, these incremental things, small inflection points every now and then.
Well, and it's a lot of work. I mean, everyone dreams of having their own business and quitting their job so that they can have freedom. And I've like never had less freedom in my entire life. I mean, I worked so much. I mean, especially before I had my baby, when I had the time, I was working from the moment I woke up till I went to bed. And it's like, I don't know, people think it's just gonna happen magically, and it's a lot of work to get something up off the ground. Like, you just have to keep going at it.
And it's not like, because people always, if you do what you love, you're never going to work a day in your life. Wrong.
I work
you're still
gonna
lot,
but you know what? I do love it. And
exactly.
I do love to bake, and I do love that I get to work with my hands. And and now, especially with a brick and mortar, I walk in and I think, it happened. I can't even believe it.
Pinch me.
Yeah, pinch me. But it was scary. Everything was scary. Like, back to what you said about fear. Like, I am scared every single day. I have not a clue. Like, all of these big decisions, like, my husband, Eric, and I just work
your husband's name's Eric?
one by one. Yeah.
Is he a C or a K?
A C.
Okay.
Yeah, so different. Yep. But twin names. But yeah, it just, I don't know, it's scary, and you just do it anyway.
Totally. And I love that you guys have these complementing behaviors, because as I've talked to people who, started a product, especially like food and bev product, where you're, refining everything, getting recipes ready, understanding how to scale your kitchen as you get these 500 roll orders.
So scary.
But I've never met one of them who's like, oh my gosh, I love the back end accounting and finance and it's just administrative tasks.
Well, that's where people get in trouble with business too, is because they don't know their margins. But my husband is so good at all of that stuff. And again, I just got into it to bake. I just really like to bake. I just really like to gab with people and hang out and bake with them and share the baked goods. And he's great at all the strategy, all the business stuff.
Love that.
Yeah. So it works. Marry your opposite, because it works in business too.
Bingo. Deal. So if it's not for the love, it's for the business.
Yeah, totally.
But I want to go to the beginning.
Sure.
So, because you're born and raised in Salt Lake.
Born and raised in Utah. Yes.
So set the stage for me of how you got into baking. Maybe it was, mom, grandma, family, or home ec at high school. I don't know, but I'm curious of how it started.
We just always baked growing up. I, like a lot of people, Sundays were family days, and that's just what we did on Sundays. My mom always said, if you can read, you can cook. So we would just open up cookbooks.
My grandpa said about skiing.
Okay, that's a little harder.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie.
A lot more trauma there.
A lot more trauma, a lot more injury. But we always baked together every Sunday. And it's just what I kept coming back to as I grew up. And I just, in times of happiness or hardships, I just always came back to wanting to bake. It's like how I coped, because it just brought me back to such a happy time. And so, we just would always bake with my mom and my sisters, and all my roommates that I ever lived with were like, oh no, Amy's baking again. Oh gosh.
Who hurt you?
SOS. Yeah. So it's just something that I always grew up doing. It's funny because my dad was kind of a health nut, but also had a major sweet tooth. So we never had sugar in the house, processed sugar. If we wanted something sweet, we had to bake it. And so that's just what we did. And we would bake it, and then we would eat it. And so if we wanted anything sugary, then
Had to make it yourself?
Yeah, you have to make it yourself. And my mom loved to bake and cook, so it just kind of worked out.
Love that.
Yeah.
Was there anything that you guys baked that you look back and you're like, oh, it was this thing, or just like a smorgasbord and it was always experimenting?
We experimented a lot, but we always came back to the classics. We love cookies and brownies and breads. And so we always made homemade bread. We always made a sheet of brownies every Sunday, I feel like. And we would experiment a lot, and some of them were fails, some of them were good, but I just always, even now, I come back to classics.
There's a reason they're the classic.
Yeah, they're good.
You can delicious. Hand me one of the most fancy cookies with all of the miso butter and the I do, but you hand me just a clean chocolate chip cookie, chef's kiss.
Say no more. It's perfect. Yeah.
Because it's ironic because so in high school, I became kind of the baker. So it was always weird. Like, and this is probably part of like my ADHD that was undiagnosed during that time is like, there's this one Sunday that always reminds me of it. It was after my parents got divorced. We're living, it's me, my two sisters and my mom. And it was this one Sunday afternoon. And I was like, hey mom, I'm going to make eclairs. And she's like,
fun.
She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm going to. I checked, I looked through a cookbook. I saw this. It looks good. We have the ingredients. And she's like, go for it. Like, have fun. And then so next thing I know, I'm like, hey mom, like, try this. She's like, wait, you actually did this? I'm like, yeah. But then when I got a little older in high school, there was one day that I was just craving cookies. And I was like, I'm going to make some cookies. And there was this East High cheerleading cookbook.
Great.
That somehow made its way into our house of 3 kids going to East. And there was this one... I think it was, it is. So it turned out to be my friend's mom, Karen Cook's cookie recipe.
Great.
And I made it, and it was one of those like, oh, hey, can you just do this like every couple weeks? Because we always had cookies in the freezer because my stepdad, like, he's 6'7" and like he has to eat to survive because he has such a high metabolism.
Yeah, you need him.
And so I slowly became the cookie person, and like I would tinker with it or like do little things. But I still love that cookie recipe. I just got a mixer for Christmas.
Congrats.
And it's on my to-do list.
That is so
crank
thrilling.
those out. So I get like, I mean, anything to do with my hands I'll always be a fan of, but I mean, cooking, especially baking, where I mean, it's cathartic to do in the moment, but then you end up with it ends up with something with the treat.
I was the same way, specifically in college. I was just always baking. And I mean, again, it's like how I coped. My parents got divorced in college. And so I just stress bake. Like whenever I'm stressed, I just end up baking. And then I'm like, well, what am I going to do with this? I have to share it. So I just was always the person that was baking and then like, here, like now you eat it. Yeah. And you know, I don't need all of these. What am I going to do with all these?
I need a dozen cinnamon rolls.
Yeah. I mean, I could. Don't tempt me with a good time. But like, anyway, I've always loved to share baked goods. Like anyone who's lived with me is just like, there's just always treats. And I just like to make it so cathartic.
So cathartic.
Yeah, it is.
So you have this great experience with your family, baking baked goods, because that's the only way that you could get the sugar that you needed.
Yes.
My mom bribed me. It was always like, if you go to school on time, we can get a Coca-Cola when I pick you up. I'm like, deal.
Listen, that's a good way to do it too.
Oh, it worked. It worked.
It does work.
So you go off to college and you keep baking, especially, I mean, in the stressful time of, you know, having your parents going through a divorce, but then also just college and life and that time in general.
Just life, yeah.
And I mean, so from there, I mean, so imagine you got married sometime around there.
Later on.
Okay.
I was like 27.
Got it. So you're in college, baking. I mean, still baking, I imagine, after that.
Yeah, graduated, lived in Salt Lake for a long time.
Okay.
Always just kept baking, was in the corporate world, and just always in the back of my mind just kept thinking, like, really? Like, forever? I have to sit at a desk forever?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, it wasn't until I got married, and my husband and I got married during the pandemic. And so, you know, it wasn't until my husband finally was like, I think we could make a business out of this. Like, I think that we can do this.
Love that.
So I don't know. It just takes a little encouragement sometimes. Cause I always thought like, well, I'm not professionally trained. Like it's not, you know, I like to, I'm a hobby baker. I'm self-taught, but like who would buy from me? Like little old me? What do you mean? So I don't know. I think cheering people on is so important, and like nobody gets anywhere unless they're cheered on, and like vice versa. Like it's an important thing to do in life, I think.
Oh, totally. And I've never met someone that gets to the end of their life and be like, I overthought everything and ended up doing nothing.
Totally.
Like, cause I can talk I understand that thought process of being like, oh, like, I don't know. Is anyone going to listen? Who am I going to have? Would they even want to be on it?
Yeah.
Who's going to eat this? And then little by little, you're like, well, I can try. Like,
I can try.
Worst case scenario, I try.
Well, and baking is so vulnerable too, because it was, for me, I was like, it's something that I created. Like, this is my heart and soul. Are you going to like it? Like, here's what I made with everything in me. Like, I hope you like it.
Yeah. And because it is very personal, especially when you're in the kitchen. Like when you pivot to saying, I'm going to sell these, or like I have a product I want to have, it goes from like, I mean, a cathartic, nostalgic experience that you have to like, how do I improve this? Is this what I want to, like, again, prove, I can show to people?
Yeah.
It reminds me of, again, in the pandemic, I was getting dinner with Cam and Ying Nance down at Hall Pass and Gateway. And she hands me and my partner at the time this box. And she's like, hey, I picked up these donuts from the China market on 33rd and thought of you guys. And I know how much you love coconut. So here you go. And I'm like, eat. There's like 6 of them. And I'm like, again, going back to our, I can eat 12.
I can do it.
And so I eat one. I'm like, yeah, the one's not going to do it. And I eat it. And she's like, so you like them? I'm like, yeah. Like, what place was it in the market? Like, where can I get them? She's like, plot twist, I made them. And so I was like, you sneaky devil, because you just got the most authentic review without it. And so I guess, so you get married, pandemic hits, you're already having these feelings about corporate America, the job, which I totally relate to. Like, I think
a lot of people did during that time too, because we were all just at home. And it's like, what else are we supposed to do?
Yeah.
I mean, and it's just always been a hobby, but just at home.
I've never met someone that they're like, I really found my sense of purpose and belonging in this life, and about finding about different like SOPs and red tape and getting things approved. And I can it's like doesn't ring true. And I'm not saying like, and I always try to stay away from always and nevers because they're never true. Some people
thrive in it. Some people are really meant for it. And I commend that. I just am not.
Yeah.
It's not the way that I was thriving. So yeah, I mean, some people can do it, but some people can't. And it wasn't for me. And I don't know. We just went into another direction.
Hey,
there's a lot of ways to make money.
Oh yeah. And we are all very different people.
We're all very different people. We have very different talents. And I just leaned into mine, I guess.
Well, and it always takes me back to, there's this Japanese term called ikigai, which is essentially the intersection of what you're good at, what makes money, what the world wants, and brings you joy. And so again, like for you being like baking, found it. This is my purpose of how I can be part of this society that we have.
Yeah.
And so many people, I mean, go to college, be told what they want to do, go and do the path that they said they were. And I always use the example of accountants. Okay, you go get your undergrad, you go get your master's, you go join a big 4, get your CPA, blah, 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 blah. And there's so many people that just do it until they like kind of can't. Like I've had so many conversations in the past year with people where it's like, hey, I did everything I was supposed to, but I actually don't like it. I'm kind of miserable and I don't know what to do. I don't know who I am. And anybody who can look at the path they're on and be like, hey, actually I'm going to do something different. I'm going to take control of my life. I'm going to make some decisions to be more in line with what I need. So I will always commend those people, because it's always easier to just do what everybody tells you, stay on the path, stay on the track and go. But especially to go from, okay, corporate job to cinnamon rolls, like that's a stressful transition.
Well, what's funny is I crave stability. Like part of me has always had this like aversion almost to entrepreneurship, because I'm like, I never want to be that, because I always want to like have a stable income. I always want to have a stable life. And I like really leaned into the opposite of that. Yeah. But now I look back and I think, I can't believe that I get to do this for a job. Like every day and especially like, during this past holiday season, it was insane. And I just, every time we were open, I thought, I cannot believe that this is my life. I can't believe that people are coming back. I can't believe that I just get to wake up and go bake for a living. But I don't know. I don't know how I got here, but I just was always craving stability, and somehow I did the opposite. But it's very fulfilling, it turns out. I don't know why I was so scared of it, but it's been the most fulfilling thing I've ever done in my life.
Totally. Especially when you go from this more or less like anxious perspective, like I just want to know what's coming in every month. I want to know what my career path looks like, to making these like slow decisions. And you're like, whoa, actually there's this new confidence that I didn't even know was possible. I can overcome all these things that come their way.
Yeah, totally.
And it's like this snowball effect until next thing you know, you're like, and I just opened up my place and I have my kid in my arms and like everything is working.
No, it's crazy. And I always said, because I think the pandemic really changed how people consume. And so while I was online and just taking orders online, I thought this works. And like it does. And it does for a lot of people. And I always said, I'm never going to open up a brick and mortar unless all the stars align. And somehow like, I don't know, I just was putting feelers out for spaces and this space became available and I went and saw it and I looked at my husband, Eric, and I was like, oh no, like, I think that this is what we have to do. And like, I knew that it was the path to growth and I knew that it was the path to scaling, but just all of the stars suddenly aligned.
Yeah.
And now here we are.
It's crazy.
We signed a long lease, so buckle up, Salt Lake City.
Eat some cinnamon rolls.
Come and eat some cinnamon rolls.
So you have this moment where your new husband, like, how long have you guys been married before he's like, hey, I think you should do this?
4 months maybe.
Casual.
I mean, we served cookies, my cookie recipe at the wedding, and then Eric's salsa recipe. So we started out, we just always were like tinkering, like, what can we do that's like a side hustle that we can do to make money differently?
Right.
And so it started off with the thought, Eric has an amazing salsa recipe. And we thought, well, we could make salsa probably. And then we learned about the whole canning process, and it just felt a little scary. I don't know, botulism exists, and apparently that can kill people. So we just thought, no, don't really want to do that. So then we just moved on to baking, and I was baking anyway. And we didn't have a big enough oven to be able to sell them fresh. And so I thought, well, maybe we could just do the dough. And so we started looking at packaging, and we launched it in the parking lot. And when I say launched, I pressed send on an Instagram post in the parking lot of our nephew's basketball game, because he was like, you have to do it before we go in. Like, it's happening. We're going to do it. And we did dough because I just always come back to baking. Like, I love the act of pulling something out of the oven. There's something that's so nostalgic and cathartic and satisfying of like the smells that happen in your house when you bake. And I'm like, well, I don't want to take that away from people. So we did take and bake dough. And that's what we did for a long time until we started introducing pop-ups with fresh rolls and things like that. So it was very new into marriage. And anyway, it was so fun to do together. I mean, we both bake after work, and then we go deliver, and we had the best time. It was fun. Looking back, it's really fun. It was really stressful in the time because we had no clue what we're doing. There's still so many things I have no clue, but just a lot of really good memories of the early days starting it together.
No, I love that. I mean, that Eric was so supportive in it.
Oh my gosh, the best. Talk about a cheerleader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because even like a lot of the things you post, it's like just seeing how much he leans in and helps you support your dreams, where there's a lot of people and like people I know that's like, oh, like that's your thing. Like, I don't want, like, just not as supportive as they could be.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to your point, like, yeah, I had a cheerleader.
Yeah. And I think everyone does. And I also think like to that point, like we should cheer other people on too, because like everyone needs a little encouragement. Like everyone's a little scared. So we should just all encourage people.
Yeah. And no one knows how you feel about them or what they're doing until you tell them.
Yeah, completely.
Like, because even in my experience with a podcast, like I can go back to 5 or 6 conversations with someone being like, hey, like thank you for doing this, or like I love this.
Yeah.
And like in days where I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Like, and then being like, that's right. This is happening. People enjoy this. Keep going.
And I think like Salt Lake is unique in the sense that, and maybe it's just because I grew up here, but I feel like I have a really awesome community of people and friends, and like everyone I just feel like has rallied around this. And like, even now I get so many strangers just in my DMs, like saying, this is so amazing. Like, congrats, just cheering me on. It could honestly make me cry. People are so kind and so supportive to strangers on the internet. Like I wish I could just read you all my DMs. They're the nicest people around here, are so nice and so supportive.
Totally.
It's been really fun. I think that's one of my favorite things is like just seeing people rally. I think in Utah specifically too, like people love to rally around a brand and they love to rally around a story, and like homegrown is very big here, I think. And it's been fun to witness that in real life, of like even the lines that we had for Christmas this past holiday season, like nobody was mean to me. Even if we sold out, everyone was like, that is so amazing. Keep going. I'll try again. And I'm like, really? You're not mad at me?
You don't hate me?
I'm so sorry. We prepped everything we could and sold it. But anyway, people like, I think Utah is so fun in that sense that there is a sense of community in Salt Lake, and they rally around different things. And it's just been so fun to witness that.
Totally.
So, yeah.
Yeah. It's fun to see who catches you when you think you'd fall.
Yeah.
As cheesy as that sounds.
No, I just think, people are just so nice that come. All of the customers that we have are so nice.
Totally. So when I come back to the journey, so you start at your nephew's basketball game.
Yeah.
You're selling things on Instagram. As most people, again, in like that pandemic, starting to have baked goods selling
it's all on
goes.
Instagram. The trust. I just can't even. People are coming to my house. I'm like, can you come in the daylight?
She's like, I'm not going to kill you. You are not going to kill me, right?
I figured that people buying sugar are like generally nice people. So I just Can't imagine.
Until you end up in a documentary 5 years later. Just kidding. No,
we
people
made it.
love it.
4
You're
years
alive.
later, here we are.
But walk me through that change of being like, okay, I'm on Instagram to, I imagine the next step was the farmers markets and a lot of other things like that. I mean, how did that change? I mean, how did you have to like upscale your, baking? Because again, you still have your oven at home, which can't put out as much as you'd like.
Yeah.
I'm just curious about like that scaling from an idea that you're selling on Instagram to the volume that you had to put out.
I mean, scaling something is like, it takes time for sure. And scaling something so manual is so interesting because I've never worked in food. So I have no clue like processes that are in place for other people that are doing things at mass scale. We just had to figure it out. So we started off just taking orders on Instagram and we would track it in Excel. And again, this is where Eric comes in because I know nothing about Excel. And anyway, we would track that on Excel. We slowly figured out like a schedule of like certain delivery days and pickup times and things like that. And then Roots Coffee, they're great. They're downtown. They reached out to us and asked if we wanted to do a pop-up. And I thought, a pop-up, like I could maybe bake fresh rolls. That could be fun. So we started off doing pop-ups there. They were awesome. The owners there are fantastic. Everyone should check out Roots. They're so great.
Love Roots.
We just did pop-ups sporadically, and then we went up to Jolly's Corner and started doing pop-ups there. Yeah, they were so great. I mean, again, this comes back, like people are just so nice. Like they let us come set up shop, and that's where we really kind of saw it like start to take off during the holidays where we were getting the lines and we thought something's happening. And during that time, I moved out of my house about a year after we started because it was just taking over. And I mean, our townhome was tiny. Like you would not believe the size of it. We replaced our kitchen table with 2 commercial metal tables. And then I bought a mixer that I had a panic attack about. I like didn't unwrap it for a little while. I had to go lay down. It was delivered and I was like, I gotta go. I need to go take a lay.
I already reached my peak of stress.
I'm sweating. I'm not doing well. Like, so that got delivered. And I think it was just the moment that I was like, oh no, like this is real. Like I've upgraded from my KitchenAid and my Bosch, and now I have this 20-quart mixer, and oh no, there's no turning back. And that's like, I don't know, it just kept spiraling.
Burn the ships, burn the bridges.
Yeah, it just was happening. And then we had our metal tables. And anyway, so we got it out of the house. We moved it into a commercial space. I hired my first employee, and then I hired another one. And I mean, that's scary too. Like scaling up and hiring is scary, and learning how to train that is hard. And they're amazing. I mean, I have the best team. And then we eventually had to move out of that space because we were getting too big into another space.
And how many square feet of space were you up to at that point?
Oh, I mean, I don't even know square feet, but at that point I probably had like 8 or 10 big metal tables.
Wow.
So, I mean, it was big, and that was a shared
like how
space.
Many cinnamon rolls are you cranking, or like,
I mean,
just some sort of quantification. I'm curious for myself.
During the holidays this past season, we were making about 1,600 rolls a day. And I mean, that was max production. I panic bought a 60-quart mixer in the height of it, and equipment will never not be scary to me to buy. I mean, it came online anyway. I went and saw it, and the salesman was like, so do you want to buy it? And I started to tear up, and I was like, I think I have to take a lap. So like, can you just give me a minute?
Yeah.
So anyway, I just kept having to scale up and get more space. And the space that we're in now, I mean, it's been a bakery for a long time. And so it's built for it. And
what was it before?
It was the baking hive before.
Oh, okay.
Loved the baking hive for years. I actually did a bakery crawl with my girlfriends back before I ever started.
I could get behind a bakery crawl.
Oh, it was the funnest time I've ever had. I took all my girlfriends around to all the spots, and I had an itinerary. And anyway, the baking hive was on it. So that was one of my stops. And so it's like so nostalgic and fun that we're now in that space. But there's a full big prep area down there. I mean, it's awesome. So we just kept scaling up and finding opportunities. And I don't know, you just
figure it out
as you go. There's no roadmap to this. Yeah. And that's what's like difficult for my brain sometimes, because I just want to be told like what to do, but we're the ones that have to figure it out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is it stressful? It's fun. It's terrifying. It's a lot of emotions.
Exhilarating.
Yeah. It's a roller coaster.
It sure is. Let me tell you what, I've cried a lot of tears, but I've also had a lot of good cinnamon rolls. So it balances out.
How many people can say that about their career?
I know. Exactly.
But I want to talk about the cinnamon roll itself, because to your point and my point, we are both cinnamon roll critics. Like, and I am someone where, because like baked goods in my family have always existed. I mean, my grandma
same.
always baked. I mean, she was it's funny because she was a vice president at a bank for real estate. But was also one of like the most particular housewives in the world. Like irons her sheets, floorboards get cleaned every day. Like amazing.
I wish I had that dedication.
Yeah. And she inspired my cousin to become a chef because of her cooking. And so, and it was always fun because we always had desserts in typical Utah fashion. She had her cheesecake. She had she had so many things.
Yeah.
I could talk about that for hours. But one thing that my mom always made was cinnamon rolls. And I love my mom's cinnamon rolls. And I know why I like my mom's cinnamon rolls.
Yeah, sure.
Because I am I don't like a hard dough for a cinnamon roll. I don't like it to be dry. I like it to be moist.
Yep.
I am indifferent on a cream cheese or a buttercream frosting. As long as the cream cheese isn't too cream cheesy, I can get behind it. But if it's too cream cheesy, I'm like, listen, this isn't a bagel. This is a cinnamon roll.
Need a little sugar in there.
Yes, but there can't be too much cream. Like there has to be the right balance.
There's a ratio. Everyone has an opinion.
That's why I love yours, because I get that same like nostalgic feeling as like with my mother's.
Oh, that's so nice.
And also, you have one of my favorite flavors of all time, the Biscoff.
Oh,
because I am a not flight only Biscoff consumer. If you catch me in the right mood at Harmon's or at the gas station, again, gas station kid will be like, I do want to act like I'm one of those.
Thanks.
Screw it, we'll get a ginger ale too.
Yeah, we're flying on Delta today.
But I'm curious about like the product development side of going from it sounds so technical. When you go from, okay, here's this recipe that I make when I stress. I mean, did you have to fine tune or refine anything, or is it always, this is the recipe, ready, set, go?
No, I'm always tweaking.
Okay.
I mean, like I'm a recipe tweaker, and like you're always kind of figuring out what works and what doesn't. And like specifically with flavors, like I have tested so many flavors and things that like work and don't work. And I think my beef with cinnamon rolls is that there was never enough filling in them. And like, there was just like a dusting of brown sugar and cinnamon.
Insulting.
And it is rude, honestly. And so that's why I anytime I bit into one, I was like, oh, it's just like, it's not as flavorful as what I know that I can make. So that's like the biggest thing is we change the fillings of all of the rolls. So the dough base is the same. So the dough is always going to be the same. And like, it's the fillings that are different. And, you should more is always more. That's my saying whenever we're testing rolls or with my employees. I'm like, just like a little bit more, like keep adding, keep going, because we're not skimping on flavor. We're not skimping on the sugar or the cinnamon. So yeah, I'm very particular with baked goods, but it is always an honor when I hear like, oh, these remind me of my grandma's. Like it really is the honor of my life. Cause again, it's nostalgic and it's happy. And yeah. So anyway, back to the recipe testing point. Like we started with cinnamon and then we did orange. And then I was watching a documentary with the founder of the Milk Bar and she works a lot with cereals. And I thought, oh, I could turn that into a cinnamon roll. And so we did a Fruity Pebble roll. And then it just kind of spiraled into like, well, what else could we put in a cinnamon roll? And so then we started with peach cobbler and then we did raspberry lemon. And the first time I tested Biscoff, back to Biscoff, it was horrible. It was the worst thing I've ever tasted. And then we finally fine-tuned it and like mixed the right things in. And anyway, it's just a process, but that's like the fun part of it.
Yeah.
Is the recipe testing. And actually the best days, and we have one coming up, our favorite days in the kitchen are test days where like my employees, we all come together. We all have some different ideas and we write down different ones that we want to try. And then we test them all. And it's the best time.
It's like, hey, you're not supposed to be working today. Like, I am today.
No, really. It's like, oh, we're coming in for test day. Yeah, we're here. So,
do you have a particular flavor you're more fond of than others?
I love the brown butter chai. Okay. And actually my staff will tell you that that's their favorite too. It's like a grown-up version of a cinnamon roll. It's just a deeper flavor. We use a local chai called Soul Chai. It's a powder. You guys should all use it. Honestly, I love it. But I love that one. I'm very partial to it. And the blueberry lemon, I'm very partial to.
I have sensed your opinion about the blueberry lemon.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, the child, like I'll always take an elevated cinnamon roll, an adult elevated cinnamon roll.
An adult cinnamon roll? Say no more. It's delicious.
Adult cinnamon roll, kid cinnamon roll, elderly cinnamon roll. I'll take all the cinnamon rolls.
All of them. Yeah. No, we have like 35 flavors, I think, in our bank that we just like kind of rotate through. And we're starting to add more savory to the menu, which is really fun. So stay tuned. Super Bowl, especially.
Ooh.
That's what we'll bring is some savory flights. So.
Cool.
Yeah, it's really fun though.
And then obviously along the way, there's been other things. I mean, like dinner rolls, and
Yeah.
I guess that's the only thing that comes to mind to me.
Cookie dough.
Cookie dough.
Yeah, we've always done cookie dough. I mean, there's obviously a lot of cookie places out there, so we've leaned into other things. But yeah, we did dinner roll dough for Thanksgiving a few years ago, and it really took off. I mean, I can't believe how many people want dinner roll dough.
I mean, it's like, so again, going back to my mother, she is a big, like, baking and, I mean, it's all baking under the same umbrella, but like sweet desserts and like bread, she spends a lot of time on. Like every time I go over there, I'm like, Mom, did you make this or buy this? She's like, made it. I'm like, touche.
More power to her. It's a lot of time.
Right. But that's where it comes in with you, where it's like, hey, listen, we took most of it out of it. Everyone's going to love these. We'll even let you say you did it if you really want to.
I don't care. Claim them as your own.
Yeah.
I mean, and I always tell people, like, it makes more sense for us to make it in bulk than it does for you to make one batch of like a blueberry lemon. Because like to make all the components of that, it takes forever. And so like you still get half the process of pulling it out of your oven. And if that's not for you, we do fresh rolls too. But anyway, it's so time intensive. And I also always joke like, I picked the most time intensive dessert to make a whole business around. Like it takes so long. I mean, we are prepping for hours a day because cinnamon rolls are just so time intensive.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Labor of love.
It is a labor of love.
Yeah. But like, and I was telling you this when we were setting up, but I mean, I love the experience that you get to have with your new daughter, having her in the baby holder and the carrier as you get to do all of this. Like, I always love these moments where you see you're like, 10 years from now, this is going to be like, it's still tender now, but like to see where that's going to happen and have this space where you have this growing family. It's a family endeavor. Like it's endearing.
It is endearing. He's a little boy. His name's Jude.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Boy, Jude.
Oh, it's so fine. No. And it's like so fun. I always take videos and I just like, I want to keep the baby stuff in it because I just think, oh, this is like where he's going to grow up. And that makes me so happy. And I mean, he's either going to love it or he's going to hate it, but it just makes me so excited that he's going to have memories at this place. Like, I didn't know how having a business and a baby was going to work. And it's been a smoother transition than I thought, but I also have a lot of help on the back end too. I mean, I have an amazing staff and an amazing team, but it's fun that like he gets to come along for the ride. Like I don't have childcare all day, every day. He comes along with me a lot of days. So it's been really fun to just involve him. It's like, it's a whole family affair. I mean, he's in the carrier a lot. So I'm sure that people who've come into the bakery have seen him, but he's the best. It's fun.
No other way to do it.
Yeah.
Just another one of those we'll figure it out moments.
Oh, completely. I mean, I honestly bow down to all working moms. I can't believe that so many moms just work too. I mean, it's mind-blowing the amount of balance that people have to be a working mom. Everyone should bow down to their working mom or the working moms that they know. Just moms in general. Like it's
moms
crazy.
in general.
It's
like
crazy.
I was pretty much raised by a single mom who was a pediatrician during it all. Yeah. My next sister is, co-parenting, but single mom.
Yeah.
But I've always been surrounded by like strong women who have had to do really hard things. And like, you don't really realize it until after. Like, I didn't realize how hard it was for my mom. I didn't realize how hard it was for a lot of these people. But now I see like single moms working in houses where both parents have to work. And like, again, like they don't have a grandma who's like, oh, whatever you want, I'll do it. Like
totally.
it is a grind and it's hard and it makes everything else even harder.
Yeah. I mean, women are incredible. It reminds me of my mom too. Like I could get emotional talking about her. She's the best. And I think like she did so much for us. She was a working mom too. And she worked because she had to work. And the balance, like the amount of balance and just being surrounded by strong women it's such a lucky thing. I feel like I'm surrounded, especially with my friends too. Like I'm surrounded by the strongest, most amazing women. And going back to people cheering you on, like, man, women just really cheer on women. It's the best.
Oh, it's my favorite.
Yeah, me too.
I've always gotten along better with women because again, I was raised, like I had a pretty absent father, mom, two sisters. And so it was always like, I was always pre-programmed to.
Yeah.
So I will always support women in every regard that I can.
Yeah.
But so I guess as you look forward, we have savory things to look forward to. Anything else in particular that you're excited about in 2025 and beyond, or mostly just tinkering, refining more flavors and keep moving forward?
Honestly, I feel like at this point we're working on scaling up. The holidays like were really hard. I mean, I knew it would be busy opening a storefront during the holidays, and I knew it was a little delusional to do that. I mean, we had a pretty tight timeline from when we signed our lease to when we opened. And the holidays are always like, it's like the Super Bowl of cinnamon rolls, right? Like everyone loves a cinnamon roll for Christmas morning. And we're really well staffed up. I have an amazing team, but like we couldn't handle more even if we wanted to. So this year is about like learning our processes, learning like how to become more efficient and how to just make more dough. Yeah. It's like this year is going to be a learning year. And I think like my mindset moving forward is just to say yes to opportunities. And that's what I've been doing for the past 4 years. That's what Eric and I have been doing, is just saying yes to the next thing. And so right now we're just working on fine tuning our process, and we're working on figuring out how to scale. It's a crazy ride to scale something so manual. It's insane. And I wish people knew the amount of work that goes into a bakery. I mean, it's hard and it's physical and it's like really long days. I mean, I was working, 13 hours a day plus, and I had a little baby at home, and it was hard. It was a lot. And so this year is about figuring out how to delegate and like scale up. Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. It's hard.
Yeah. You're like, I didn't think this was all gonna happen. Oh, that's what I was gonna say earlier. Was like, it's so fun that, because again, you have this woman in your life, your mother, who's inspiring you. I mean, she's working because she has to. And it's always funny to see, like in my personal life and as I talk with others, the things we look back that inspired us the most. And like for you, like, oh my gosh, like baking with you was so much more of a thing than, I mean, if person were to time travel back into that kitchen and interview your mom, be like, hey, do you think this is going to be an impactful thing for her? She's like, no, this is just like us spending time in the kitchen.
It's just what we did. Like, and it's all I've ever known. Yeah. Too.
And so it's fun to look back now and be like, hey, like the thing that inspired me the most and gave me the most comfort and joy in life was actually this thing that we did together, not of the other million things that, again, if you could interview her then, she'd probably be like, well, I wanted to learn this and this. You're like, actually, Mom, spending time with you making cinnamon rolls and baked goods was the highlight of it.
Yeah. Well, I recently was talking to her and I was like, I always loved the phrase, like, if you can read, you can cook. She's like, I said that because like, I didn't know how to do it either. So like, we were all just going to figure it out. Yeah. So I don't know. It's the empowerment of like, you can figure it out too. Yeah. You're going to be fine.
What I always love, like people always ask me what my favorite episode is. And I mean, like kids, everybody does have a favorite, but they're not going to tell anybody.
Sure.
But one thing I will always tell people about episodes is there's always something I learn from everybody. Yeah. And yours for sure is figured out.
Oh,
like,
thanks.
Keep the ball moving forward. You'll figure it out.
You will.
People have figured out much more complicated things and
way harder things than baked goods. Yeah. So, I mean, if I can do it, if me and Eric can do it, like you guys can do it too, because no one knows what they're doing.
Like the amount of times I look at someone who I like would subjectively deem like, he's not that competent, he's doing it. If he can do it, I can do it. And if I can do it, anybody can do it. Totally. You just have to do it.
Well, I was recently talking to another bakery owner and she was talking about a mixer and I was giving her all of this information of like, well, you have to make sure that your dough is the weight that it can handle, and then the electrical, and I have a great electrician and here's this. And I'm like, I didn't know that years ago. Like all of these things about I just got into this to bake. Yeah. And now I have all of this really random knowledge about, electrical and plumbing and grease traps and like all of this fun stuff that comes along with a baker that I had no clue about.
Not a chance that you would ever have even thought at the beginning being like, well, here's the things I'm going to have to learn.
No, you don't know going into it. And I think people are fearful about going into something because they don't know. And like nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
So you just have to do it.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the similar thing with a podcast. Like I didn't know how to record, edit, audio, video. No. So it's fun when you get there and like, again, like people recognizing and praising people like, hey, like look how far you've come. I mean, like you've learned so much and now you could like, someone could come to you and be like, I'm opening a bakery. What do I need to be like?
I can give them a blueprint.
Exactly.
I mean, kind of, there's not really a blueprint for anybody, but like,
you know where to start.
I know where to start. And like, I don't know, but you just say yes to the next thing and you figure it out. And as you scale, you just figure it out. And you buy equipment and you hire people and you just go for it. And I mean, I had many panic attacks about buying equipment and scaling up. And I don't know. Again, I've just had a lot of people that encouraged me. I would not be here without so many people around me saying, you can do it. You're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the hardest days. That's all you need is just somebody like, hey, you got this.
Yeah.
I believe in you. You're like, ooh, I don't even believe in myself right now.
What do you mean, really? Me? Who?
Like, say it again, please.
Yeah. Keep it on repeat.
So, Amy, before we wrap up, want to ask the two questions I always ask everybody. Number one, if you could have someone on the Small Lake City podcast and hear more about their story and what they're up to, who would you want to hear from?
Oh my gosh, probably another baker that's like myself.
Who's on your list?
I have so many obsessions with people who are also in the baking world. One of them, you hear me talk about on my Instagram a lot, is Pie Party. She just actually opened up a brick and mortar. Yep. She's amazing. She makes amazing treats. Another one is Lady Flour. I'm obsessed with her cake.
Becca's great.
She's like, yeah, Becca's the best. I love Mim sourdough bread. Tamadachi Bake Shop is so good. There's just so many good bakeries around. Sugar Coated Sisters is another one. I mean, there's just a lot of amazing, talented people coming out of Utah that like, there really is this huge underground scene, and you should order from people online and on Instagram because they make amazing treats.
Yeah. Don't go to the big crumbles and
you can.
You can.
If you need a quick fix.
But
if you want ones that are made with love, there are tiers of baked goods. And there's something for everybody in Utah.
Totally.
If that's your thing, awesome. I love it. I've been there. That's totally fine. But yeah, there's a lot of talented people here.
Totally. And it's fun to be in this time of the world where, again, you can start on Instagram.
Yeah.
And then you can start talking to all these cafes and bake shops.
Yeah.
And then you can go to the farmer's market. And then you're like, oh my God, I just bought a 60-quart mixer and I just signed a lease.
Well, and like that's the power of shopping small too. Like so many people, like we did this because customers kept coming back. And like the customers, I mean, I said this at the grand opening, but like the customers are the ones that are employing this team of 10 women that I have. The customers are the ones that helped me sign this lease. Like the customers are the reason that Eric and I can have this bakery and like keep going. It wouldn't happen without other people. And that's why it's so important to shop small.
And in the 71 episodes I've recorded, I've never heard a story that has someone doing it all on their own.
Never. No, you can't. And I mean, we tried to do it on our own for a while and we hit our limit and it doesn't happen. Yeah. You have to have a lot of help.
It's that community.
Yeah, it is.
Bring them in and they'll help you.
Yeah.
And you never know what people will do until you ask.
Totally. No, and it just, yeah, people are amazing.
And then lastly, if people want to find out more about the cinnamon rolls, where to get them, flavor updates, what's the best place to find that?
You should follow my Instagram. It's Dough Lady SLC on Instagram. I post a lot of behind the scenes and then upcoming flavors that we have throughout the week. So I post those to my stories and you can just check back and see.
And then what's the address of the new store?
3362 South, 2300 East. In Salt Lake.
Yeah. I did mentally, because I didn't know specifically because I haven't been yet, but I was
we're right by Provision. So we're a little tucked away. So we're just like a little behind Provisions in that same parking lot.
I do like Provisions. It's a good area.
Great. Yeah, it's a great area.
Amy, you were a gem. I'm so glad that you decided to take the risk and make some cinnamon rolls.
Thanks. Me
too. You make everyone's life better.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you.
Yeah, excited for the future. Go swing by. Go get some dough if you want your house to smell amazing. If you don't want to do any more work, go get some ready to eat. And there's something for everyone.
There is. Come on by.
Deal. Ugh. Oh, you're such a treat. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Small Lake City Podcast. Don't forget to like, follow, review, subscribe, and share this episode with your friends. And we'll catch you next week. We'll see you there.